There's a bit of irony going on here. We left Quito early in the morning and it was heavily overcast and wet. Now we're driving higher into the cloud forest, but those clouds are disappearing, making way for blue sky. We're near the small town of Nono, not far from Mindo, and within the Choco Andino. This area is part of a large biosphere reserve, important enough to be formally recognized by UNESCO. We have a free day while in Quito, en route to the Galapagos, so we're headed for a small private reserve called Zuro Loma, where attention is shifting from cattle ranching to ecotourism, shifting from clearing vegetation to preserving it. We're driven by a desire to get our first look at the flora and the fauna of the Andean Cloud Forest. Figuratively speaking anyway, literally we're being driven here by Santiago. Santiago is a naturalist and co-founder of Neotropical Nature and Birding. We selected this location and that tour operator from an extensive list of options on TripAdvisor, and I'll say here that we were very happy with that choice. This location is beautiful, and we were so impressed with Santiago that we scheduled an additional private day tour with Neotropical for the following week. At the reserve, we found a comfortable area set up with various feeding stations to attract a variety of birds and to assure good viewing and photo opportunities. For one of the shyer Antpittas, a blind was used. We're casual birders, and we're not familiar with all the South American species, but this Swordbill Hummingbird was instantly recognizable. eBird even goes so far as to use the adjective ridiculous in describing them, and notes that they have the longest bill in relation to their body size of any bird in the world. The distinctive decurved bill of the mountain velvetbreast made it unmistakable. Buff-winged starfrontlets were plentiful. Even in flight, their light wing patches make them easy to recognize, since this buff coloration of their flight feathers doesn't occur in any other species within this area. The white tail and breast patch identify this one as a collared Inca, joining the Starfrontlet briefly before both yielded to a Sapphire-vented Puffleg, one of our favorites. The larger Puffleg is quickly identified by size and shape, and of course by color. When perched, its distinctive fuzzy white socks really stand out. That blue head is specific to pufflegs within Ecuador. The diminutive Tyrian Metaltails were plentiful too. When the light hit them just right, it was obvious where their name originated. While Santiago recognizes all these species instantly, I find myself scrutinizing my photos after the fact to get a positive ID. An equally small buff-tailed coronet also visited. In this case, the underside of his tail IDs him, and he has a hint of fuzzy socks as well. And finally, here's one that no one would mistake for anything else, the magnificent black-tailed Trainbearer, which visited several times. The Antpittas seem to draw a lot of attention from birders. We had heard them a couple of times while exploring elsewhere, and apparently hearing them rather than seeing them is the norm. They tend to stay low to the ground, concealed in heavy brush, but an equatorial and chestnut-naped Antpitta were each lured out for a photo by some freshly harvested worms. Lacking the long bill of the hummingbird, flower piercers feed on nectar by making a hole at the base of a flower. The colorful masked flower piercers were plentiful and not at all shy. Glossy flower piercers were common as well, if not as showy, and a pair of white-sided flower piercers were also seen. Gray-browed and yellow-breasted brushfinches were attracted to the feeders, as were the somewhat shy blue-capped tanagers. Earlier on, we had chased a single scarlet-bellied tanager, which wasn't interested in sitting for a portrait. By mid-afternoon, we backtracked to Nono for a late lunch, and we celebrated the day with a toast of warm canelazo, a traditional holiday drink, and we enjoyed a hearty traditional lunch. We were quite pleased with the day. It proved to be a good initial introduction to the area, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend Zuro Loma Preserve or Neotropical Nature and Birding to anyone looking to experience the natural environment close to Quito.